Hello, everybody. This is Jake Stenziano, host of the Wheelbarrow Profits Podcast, here with my co-host, the multifamily mentor, the coach, the chef, the father of six, the best-selling author, the G-Daddy, Gino Barbaro. Gino, how's it going?
Stenziano, I'm doing good. You got the hair gel on today?
Got the hair gel, but I don't got my sidekick, man. You're back in Florida now. What's going on?
Yes, I'm back in the promised land. Thank God nothing happened down here where I live. Was fortunate. People down here are great. Seems like Florida is going to bounce back from this. I came here. It looks really good. I missed it, but I had a great time last week at the Stenziano household. I hope we didn't drive you too crazy.
You know, it made me feel good. It was my first time doing humanitarian efforts, so it was pretty good, man. You know, so. But we have a great guest on today. Today's guest is David Osborn. David has built one of the top real estate brokerages in the world with over 4,500 agents and annual sales exceeding $8.5 billion per year. As a serial entrepreneur, David has founded over 50 companies. Wow, that's amazing. He's also an educator who teaches audience how to live abundant lives through goal setting. He's an author. He hires great talent and has been able to develop multiple streams of income. So without further ado, David, welcome to the show.
Hey, it's great to be with you guys.
Oh, man, it's great to have you here. Why don't you tell us just how you got started in business and a little bit about your story?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I was always the kid trying to hustle a little bit harder than, find an angle. I was a lawn mowing kid, and I was thinking the other day, I almost never worked in an office. I had a construction job. Then I worked briefly as a bagger of groceries, and then I started a lawn mowing company, and then went to outside direct sales, computer door-to-door sales, building, commercial buildings. And then I got a realtor license, and then I started opening franchises. I was pretty lucky. I joined the fastest growing real estate company in the world in 1994, but at that time it didn't look that way and you didn't know it, but that's what it ended up being. And as they expanded, they needed new people to show up and buy franchises and take advantage of opportunities. And so that's kind of where I got my start. The only reason I joined the company was my mom was their realtor there, and she was the number 5 realtor. And from there, it's just been a whirlwind, journey to the top of the real estate industry. Our company is now number 1 in the industry by agent count, and we are the number 1 group inside that company, my partner Smokey and I. And then we also have number 6 position in the U.S., selling 35,000 units and $9 billion in sales. So hopefully crack the top 5, and it's been quite the journey.
David, before we get into the best-selling book over here, Wealth Can't Wait, and that's how I got introduced to you. It's an awesome book. I got lots of questions about, the book, how you came up with it, what's in there. Tell us why real estate. Why did you get into real estate? What was the attractive thing about real estate to you?
It's funny. I never wanted to be in real estate. My mom got it. My dad was a Green Beret. He retired from the Army. My mom got into real estate at age 14 for me, and I never saw her again. She was 40. I think I was 14. So I told her I'd never work for her and never be in real estate. But then I went hitchhiking around the world, and I run up my credit card debts. I hitchhiked around the world for 2 years, came back, got a job with a technology company, but couldn't stand the environment. So my mom said, why don't you come work for me temporarily while you find something else? And I said, well, okay, just temporarily, I'll come work for you. Now, I'd always been interested in real estate, but as an investment property, I almost bought an investment property when I was doing my lawn mowing company, but I passed on it. But I was never interested in being a realtor. So I went to work for her, and man, I was like a glove fitting the hand. I got into it. You just got to take care of people. You get to drive them around. You're not ever stuck in an office. And the harder you work, the more you get paid. And that's what I loved about real estate. So I immediately was hooked. Was working right off the bat, every day for hundreds of days in a row, and not taking vacations like a lot of people don't, and working 14-hour days. And I got really good at it, and I enjoyed it. And then I was, about 2 or 3 years in, and I was driving down the same street on the same day, saying the same thing to the third client for the day. And I was like, okay, there's got to be something different from this. There's got to be a better way. And at that time, the company was expanding into Dallas. And again, my mom, who's like my guardian angel, is like, hey, come on up and let's do something in Dallas. So I went with her, and we opened our first office up in Dallas. And from there, we just kept opening them, and one after another. And we were terrible at operating market centers at first, real estate offices. But over time, we got better. The company got better. We all got better together. And pretty soon we started having some success. My mom stepped back and retired at some point. I bought her out of most of the interest that we created together. And then I just kept expanding. At one point I wanted to own 100 market centers. And then, what I love about real estate, you said why real estate is, yes. I couldn't go design an iPhone. I couldn't go design a new pharmaceutical compound to heal cancer. I'm just not that intellectual. I'm not that brainy. I like to read. I like to learn. But real estate's great. You don't have to be a genius. You just got to figure out how to make 1 + 1 = 2 1/4. If you can make 1 + 1 = 2 1/4, and you're willing to work hard, you can do very well in real estate. It's a great place where above average but not super brainy person that's got a great work ethic and is willing to take some risk can succeed. It's really, I think it's really hard to fail in real estate unless you get greedy or overzealous. It's just grind away, and the answers are usually pretty logical, and that's what I love about it.
What made your mom so successful at it?
So my mom's a non-college educated soldier's wife. She was a military wife, but she's got great honor, great integrity. I think she has an incredible work ethic, and I think she was a great realtor because of that. I mean, people just trusted her, and she was trustworthy. And then she put out the energy to work really, really hard. And I remember once I got to the company, and my mom had already been in sales for 10 years. She was the #1 agent. And I remember another agent said to me, your mom got lucky when she got in the business. I think I was on phone duty, and I'm like, yeah, she did. No big deal. But what that agent didn't know, and I didn't tell him because there's no point in trying to educate a fool, but my mom went to work at 5 a.m, came home at 10 o'clock at night. So, yeah, she got lucky because she joined Keller Williams, a great real estate company that was growing fast. And then she went to work at 5 o'clock in the morning and came home at 10 at night for a long period of time.
We talked about luck a few minutes off the call. You know, describe or define to me what you think luck is and how it plays out and how it even played out in your life.
Well, you said, I think luck is preparation meeting opportunity, and that's definitely the quote that we all live by. But I mean, I don't think you get successful in life without luck. And I've spent a lot of time, talked to Richard Branson about it. He told me people said I was lucky because I got out of records at the perfect time and started an airline. But he said, Bill Gates said I was lucky because I started a personal computing company at the time when personal computers were taking off. You have to have a moment, something has to go your way at some point in your career for you to have amazing success. Hard work is not enough. I think Thoreau or somebody said ants work hard and they're still ants. So working hard is not enough. You got to be smart, position yourself to win. And then all of a sudden, I knew a guy that was worth $200 million in Chicago. He had 1,000 units. He bought all these C-class bad units, had bad furnaces. He told me stories of sleeping beside the furnace with an alarm clock so he could turn it on and off all night so it wouldn't burn people and stuff like that, because he didn't have a good furnace. So he worked really, really, really hard. But the reason he's worth $200 million is because then there was a real estate boom and he had all these units. And all these units that were considered crappy at one point in the lift of the market, this was the 01 to 06 lift. Just took his net worth from maybe 30 million to 100, 120 million. Then it went down again, but because he was smart about how he did it, he wasn't over leveraged and he had good cash flow. He rode through the next downturn, added to his portfolio, and then he got a second lift. So you could consider those lifts luck. I mean, my second wealth was built in the downturn because I had a lot of cash. I hadn't invested much in 2003 to 2006 because I thought the market was too hot and I was sitting on a decent amount of cash. And then around 2009, I was like, man, this stuff's really low priced. And in 2010, I turned to my partner and said, we could buy anything right now and we're going to look like we're smart in the future. And then in 2011, I just went all in with everything I had. So that money doubled or tripled with leverage. And that was my second lucky opportunity. But it was, preparation was I'd been in the business forever. And I knew that households were still being formed, but prices were depressed. You couldn't get loans. So if you had cash, cash was king. And then the luck part was I never expected to come back as fast as it did. I'm sure you guys didn't either. I thought it would be like a 10 to 15 year slow recovery, which I was fine with. I almost would have preferred that because then you've got longer opportunities. But instead, the market just shot back up. It kind of boomeranged in 2013, 14, 15, and just got really red hot. So all that stuff I bought, instead of getting a nice 20% return per year, I was probably closer into the mid 30s. And if you compound money in the 30s, it gets big very quickly. So that's an example of luck, and luck happens, but you'll never get lucky if you don't put yourself in a position to get lucky.
It's funny you say about working hard. I'm the consummate hard worker, and like I said, we were speaking. I was at the restaurant. I had my one restaurant working 55 hours a week, and I just kept banging my head on the wall doing the same thing. And it's at one point in your life you have to say to yourself, "Listen, it's not working. Let's try a different strategy here." And I think most people get into that comfort zone, and they're just comfortable with what they're doing. They're not uncomfortable enough to change. They're just at that zone. And I always try to talk on the podcast to get out of that comfort zone, because if you're not growing and contributing in life, you're going to have a stagnant life and you're going to feel stuck, and you're going to wake up in your 40s and go, what the hell happened? So I think that's truly important.
Well, God bless people like you that are willing to work that hard, but even more than that, God bless you for making a change and willing to take that change. I meet some people, I'm like, wow, you work really hard and you are really, really smart. You work harder than me and you're smarter than me, and you're not nearly in the position I am because you haven't positioned yourself to win. You're working as a broker in Wall Street, or you're working as a manager of a restaurant. I think that's like the ultimate. I think restaurant managers work harder than almost anybody, and they're usually getting paid $60,000 a year. And you're like, that doesn't compute. Get your real estate license. Go sell real estate. You can work half as hard and make $250.
Tell us about your first deal. Do you remember the very first deal you did? And that first deal hook you?
Yeah, I walked into a house. I was showing it for a client. It happened to be my sister. I turned to her and said, "Hey, sis, are you going to buy this house?" She said, "No." I said, "Good, I am." So it was a $77,000 house. I bought it, put $20,000 down on it, which was all the money I had in my life at that time. It was 1995. I still own it today. That house today is probably worth $325. I bought it for $77. I've refinanced it once and bought 3 other homes with it. So it's turned into 4 homes. The equity I have in those 4 homes combined is probably $600,000, and it cash flows. They're almost all paid off now, because back then I used to put everything on 15-year notes, which I don't do anymore. But it cash flows $2,800 a month, about $35,000 a year, and that was all in $20,000. I never, even if you netted out all the cash flows from renting it out over the years and said I spent every dollar in rent I spent, I got $20,000 that's turned into $600,000 that's netting me $35,000 a year. So yeah, that's my first deal, and I loved it, and yeah, I was hooked.
Dude, that's the definition of velocity of money, I guess. Wow, that's a nice velocitization of money, guys. Refi and roll. That's what he's talking about. What's your investment strategy now? When you got a deal across the table, you talk like 9 out of 10 deals you just discard. What are you looking for in a deal that makes it attractive to you?
So I'm looking for a couple things. Number one is cash flow. I think cash flow is king in residential real estate. By the way, I've sprinkled some money in some private equity stuff that I don't understand, and I'm doing that through people that I trust. I've got the opportunity matrix in my book. I look at the person first. Can I trust them? Do they have a track record? Are they integrity based? If the answer is yes, then I look at the opportunity. Can I understand it? Can I understand how to make money? What's the worst case and what's the best case? So the worst case is I lose everything. So I've thrown some money at some technology funds and some different things. I'm like, okay, worst case, I lose this money. Can I live with that? The answer is yes. So therefore I've done it. But in real estate, which is really what I consider my area of expertise, what I'm looking for again is the worst case. So what's the worst case? If I signed a loan, could this thing take me negative? Could it take me down? What's the best case? But really, what's the most likely? So I'm really looking at worst case and the most likely. And if I can live with the worst case and I like the most likely, then I'm most likely to do the deal. And for me, what I'm looking for is a cash on cash between 8 and 12%, and then a total return of 15% on anything I hold. And then on anything I flip, I want to make 25%. So it's 25 on a flipper if I'm in and out, 25 IRR, and then on a keeper, 8 to 12.
And how have you been able to build up that deal flow? Because everyone is always asking us, well, Jake and Gino, how do you guys get deal flow? We've been able to, with our education company and our presence online, to actually get guys to start bird dogging for us. It's been amazing what's been able, when you put your brand out there, people trust you. Like you said, they start sending you deals. Where have you gotten the majority of your deal flow in the last few years?
Well, like you, it's relationship. I have a good reputation. People know that if I want something, I'll close on it, that I'm never trying to circumvent people. So actually happy to pay commissions and more than commissions. And because of that, I think your reputation kind of grows, but also it doesn't hurt that I own the 6th largest residential real estate company in the country. So that gets me credibility. So you want to have credibility, a willingness to close, and be a straight up guy. So I think, it's like, I had a guy call me the other day with a home, and it was 60,000 below market. And he called me and said, "Hey, you got to make a decision in 24 hours. I talked to him for 15 minutes. I'm like, done deal. I'm in. And that's the example of, like, I knew the guy already. I knew I could trust him. I knew he was tight with money, so he wasn't going to be, extravagant with it. And I bought it in like 15 minutes talking on the phone with him. Again, he'd earned the right to have that relationship, but also who did he call first? A guy that he knew would act that way.
So, David, what would you say to the beginning investor? Because right now, Jake and I and you, we've built up this credibility. What would you say to the beginning guy getting in, and looking for deal flow?
You gotta just hustle. It's like recruiting or selling real estate. The worse you are at it, the more you have to do of it. So when I was selling real estate, I had to prospect 4 hours a day every day. When I was recruiting, I had to have 15 recruiting appointments a week to get where I wanted to go. And today, if you don't have the deal flow you want, you got to get out and hustle, meet the agents that have deals, show that you're honorable, show that you care, keep studying, keep paying attention, make sure you got the capital. If you say you're going to close unless something material comes up. So that's it. It's just a hustle. I mean, it's almost more fun. Like the beginning was in a way fun for me. Like I'm still loving my life now, and I'm very grateful. I got my kids and my family, but there's nothing like being on that hunt when you're trying to build your career, and that's what they have to fall in love with and just get after it. It does get, you don't want to be hunting at 50 like I was hunting at 25 for sure. You don't want to be putting in 14, 15-hour days every day unless you're Grant Cardone. But from my perspective, the new guy needs to just hustle hard and keep earning and working with integrity, and they'll get there.
But doesn't that come back to passion? I think Grant is passionate about what he does. So even if he's 50 or 55, and even me, I'm pushing. I'm 47. I mean, I could work 14. I love what I'm doing right now. So I think part of that component has to be you got to love what you do. And if you don't love what you do, you're never going to work 14 hours a day. And if you do work 14 hours a day, you're going to suck at it. So part of that component, I think I can hear from your voice, you really enjoy what you do. So you could still do 14 hours a day with no problem, correct?
Gino, hold on before we get there. Gino, Tuesday of this week, we got up, we were hitting it at 7 o'clock. We got home at 7, and then Whitney was taking pictures. We were out there, in the office till 9, 10 that night. Mm-hmm. And it didn't feel like it though, because it's like, we're out there hunting deals, love what we're doing. So I think it's, part of it is just if you enjoy what you're doing, it's not going to feel like work.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I still work 60, 70-hour weeks sometimes, but I have 2 kids. I like to spend time with my kids. I like to do great family vacations. I've been on like 6 amazing vacations this year. I went to see the full eclipse of the sun. I played an amazing golf course in Kiowa Island. So my point is that, but when I was 25, I didn't take those breaks. I never took time off. So, I do love what I do. Really, for me, real estate, money, it all equals freedom, and I love freedom. I'm a very freedom-driven guy. So I love every time I'm doing a deal, I actually feel like I'm tearing the cages down on any limitations that I have in my life. So, of course, that's fun. My only point to you was, like to me, family is very important. Balance, working out, keeping my body in shape is very important. And so that, as I've gotten older, is something I enjoy investing a large amount of time into, learning, growing, being around really smart people. And that's a little different than a 25-year-old just grinding it away.
Jake, David personifies TGIF. And it's not thank God it's Friday. It's thank God I'm free. Because he lives the abundant life, and that's what it's all about. I think, before I jump into the book, I have one more question about your investment strategy. Have you changed your investment strategy over the last 10 years? Because the last 5 years is more about cash flow, it seems, and passive income. But how has it shifted over the last 10 years?
Wow. Well, of course it shifts. You think bigger. I think way bigger than I used to. So there's a concept called the minimum check. Like, what would you really invest your time in to get an outcome? And so, for instance, if you're a starting investor, it might be 50 grand or maybe 25 grand. Like, I won't touch a deal unless I can make 25 grand. So somebody shows you with a deal that has 5,000 profit baked into it. You're like, no, thanks. That's way too much work for 5K. So the main change for me is I'm just thinking way bigger. So if I can't see, a multi-million gain at some point down the road, maybe not immediately, but at some point down the road, I'm not really interested. I might hand it to somebody on my team to manage, but I'm not interested. So thinking bigger, realizing life is short, being more fearless. So those are the changes in my investment strategy. Now, as far as what the market will give me, I can't be asking for an 8 cap if the market's a 5 cap. So I was asking for much better returns in 9, 10, 11 when I was looking then. And in 2006, I was building operating businesses. I was building franchises. I'm building a lot less operating businesses now, and I'm just parking cash in high cash flowing investments. I'm also using other people's money. So right now we're in private equity, and we're just starting our 5th or 6th fund, which is one that we hope to deploy a minimum of 150 million through and a maximum of 300 million. So it's, again, thinking bigger. I talked to you a little bit about that earlier, like syndicating on a deal by deal basis is great if you're still climbing the mountain, but we're trying to just create an asset class and go bigger.
Are those all going into single families?
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe some duplexes and fourplexes, but that money will go into that space.
Now that you go into that space, what markets do you like? Because I mean, like in the Dallas market, it is really over leveraged. And I like that point. You bang in your head for an 8 cap, but Dallas is at a 5 cap right now. And it's really frustrating because Jake and I were buying 3 and 4 years ago. We were seeing where they were. And it's all about taking that. We had a podcast with someone last week. It's that overhead view of where you're going to go. Don't look at what you bought it 3 years ago because you're not buying it there. If there's still meat on the bone and you can still make money and still hit some type of return. But it's hard. It's so difficult to buy something when you're buying at 30 a door. Now all of a sudden it's at 50 a door. And it's like, it's so difficult to do that right now.
You know what? You just got to keep thinking bigger and keep looking through it. If you keep noodling it around and just say, what would it take for a 50K a door deal to make sense instead of it's so hard. You got to reframe everything. But I'm looking in Florida. I think Florida is still a great place. I was talking to this guy from Wall Street that loans that they're going to give us the leverage on the portfolio. So we're going to, assuming we get the 50 to 100 million in investor capital, then we can 2 to 1 that with leverage. And he said something really funny to me. He goes, I really like the B markets. And I'm like, yeah, I really like the B markets too. And then he went on. He's a Harvard MBA, very smart guy. And I'm like, so what B markets were you thinking? He goes, like Atlanta, Dallas. I'm like, what? His idea, his A markets are Manhattan and San Francisco. So, but for me, what I consider the B markets would be like, Memphis or, I don't know, Gainesville or just different areas, maybe outside of Austin, maybe New Braunfels, maybe instead of, Dallas, maybe McKinney. So I'm just that's what I consider B markets is they're near the big cities, and yet you can get better returns on them. So
but
you just got to look hard.
Investors, though, don't even look at Manhattan for the most part, though, because you're going to get a 3 cap or something, right? So
it's like
it's not even in the game really. So
well, this guy works with billionaires. So actually, in fact, you'd be surprised. The reason that his money comes from billionaires who will loan it to us at 5%.
Gotcha.
So they're just looking for 5%. If you're at $1 billion, or $2 billion family,
different game. Yeah.
It's a different world, man. You're chasing 3 to 5% in security. Mainly, you don't want to blow it.
Yeah,
so it's
you're
different.
boxing out, right? You're just trying to preserve it. Yeah.
And I think that was my big aha. I think I'm pretty accomplished in real estate, and I got pretty good stats to back it up. And then you meet this guy, and he's like, yeah, well, we got $200 million from the last family that decided to invest in our program. I'm like, wow. And that was obviously just a portion of their investable assets. You're like, wow, this is a different world out there. No matter how far you think you've come, there's always a way, way, way bigger world out there.
You wrote this book, Wealth Can't Wait. Great book, guys. Everyone on the call, you got to go out, read it, because whenever you want to mirror somebody, you always want to learn from somebody who's done it. Why did you write the book? What was the inspiration for writing the book?
I just wanted to put some thoughts down on paper and maybe add some value. My dad was dying at the time, and I just thought if I got killed, what would my kids know of me? I've got 2 young kids. And so that was the impetus of the book. But I also would say I've always been somewhat of an educator and a teacher, and I just wanted to find a way to give back. Now, I didn't know it was going to take me 7 years to write the dang thing, and it was going to cost me as much money as it was, and it was much harder than I thought. But part of that was because I was stubborn. I made a lot of mistakes, and I was very determined to write most of it myself. And so that's why I wrote it, to make a difference and help people get along. And I've been helped by so many books that I've read. I just thought it was a good medium for helping people grow that choose to.
Let's jump into it. You talk about so many different frameworks. It's easy to read because there's a lot of frameworks. When you read it, you can chunk it down and actually understand what you're writing about. Go into the 7 pillars of business. I love those 7 pillars.
Yeah. So I actually wrote this book, and my goal was that it would be a 1-flight stand, meaning if you bought it at the airport, you could finish it by the time you got to your next destination. And I also wanted it to be very, I like to be able to read a book and put it down at any time, read it for 10 minutes. So I tried to make each of the chapters digestible. I think there's way too much information in it. I think it could have been 5 books, but by the time we were close to getting it out, we were just done editing it. So it's got almost too much information there, too much value for 1 book. Mm-hmm. But, if you want to build a business, to understand, number 1 is client acquisition is king, or in our business, deal flow is king, or you could consider your deals your clients, or if you're raising money, the investor is king. Number 1 thing is client acquisition. And I think people sometimes think, I'm going to build this killer app and it's going to do all this stuff, but it's irrelevant. You could have the best app in the world, but if you don't have clients, it's irrelevant. Microsoft isn't necessarily the best platform. They just were the best at marketing. So Apple is an incredible marketing company. Ultimately, you have to get the clients. And that's why that's why in life it's unfair that admin people who sometimes do all the hard work get paid less than the guys that bring in the business. The lawyer that brings in the business is the one that gets the corner office. But client, you've got to understand that getting clients is the most important thing. Secondly is barriers for entry, and that's just keeping the more barriers to entry you have, the more money you're going to make. You'll never get anywhere without leverage, right? So this is a big one for me. You have to have leverage. There's 3 kinds of leverage. People leverage, that means having a great team. There's systems leverage, which is having automatic processes that magnify and accelerate your success. And then the third one is capital and financial leverage. So you're not going to get anywhere big without leverage. You got to master the art of leverage. And you see that, a lot of people that work really, really, really hard have never mastered the art of letting go. And so they're stuck, and they may make a lot of money based on what they do, but they'll never build a business because they're like, no one does it as good as me. I mean, I just know it better than anybody. And I'm just going to, I hired an assistant once. It was a complete disaster, right? Mm-hmm. You can't get through that. That's extremely,
We call it the I'm a mentality because we struggle with that. Because I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna do everything. When we first started out, it was like once we hit the point where we really started scaling, it was we pick on ourselves now because I was doing the evictions, I was doing the accounting, doing the books, doing this, and I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. It doesn't work though. You can only do so much. And so when we started scaling everything out with the management and things like that, the whole game changed, and it really took off for us. So we were laughing because you were describing what we call the I'm a mentality.
Exactly, and that's why I'm
gonna do nothing. That's my model.
I'm gonna do nothing. I'm gonna sit back and let the money roll in.
Let everybody do stuff, right? I actually only do 3 things. I hire talent, I look for opportunities, and I create vision. That's all I do. So I try to limit my life to interviewing talented people that I think can make a difference in my life. Find deal flow, and then create a vision constantly because my life tends to conform to my vision. So I'm very committed to keeping a clear vision.
So David, you're basically a visionary, and then you need somebody as an integrator to integrate and to do everything that you're visioning out. So you have a certain skill set, and it's amazing that you even know that, not that you know, but that's where your strength is, and the ability to not take everything over. I think a lot of visionaries burn themselves out by trying to become the integrator also. And I think that's probably propelled you over the last 10 or 15 years where, you're doing the single families. Now you're already into private equity because you've taken that small steps, and all of a sudden at the same time, you haven't lost that visionary role and you've been able to delegate. So that's why I think you've been so supremely successful the last few years.
Well, and to be fair, I did burn out. So that's why I know, because I had like a mini nervous breakdown when I was like 31 where I got shingles from stress. And I was just like you guys, I'm going to do everything. And that's where I was. So I was assembling cubicles and recruiting all the people and working 16, 18-hour days and just trying to get it all done. And I just literally had a breakdown, and my body kind of gave out on me. So for me, that was a long time ago now, but I came back from that a changed person because I either had a choice, quit business or learn to do it better, or else I was going to get really sick. If you've ever had shingles, it's a recurrence of chickenpox. It's really painful. And the doctor that I went to is like, man, I don't know. I've only seen people in the 50s have this. I don't know how you have this at 30, 31 years old, whatever I was. And that was transformative to me. So I went and hired a business coach. The business coach said, look, write down the 7 most important things to do every day and do the top 3. And that was a game changer for me. To this day, I'm really good at doing the high priority stuff. So, I remember when I was younger, there'd be the one thing I'm slightly afraid of, like, I got to call that guy and I'm pretty sure they're mad at me. And like now I just pick up the phone and call him immediately. If there's even a shadow of that old memory of fear, I just jump right into that action. Whatever I've got to do, I get done, and the high priority items as fast as possible. And when you do the most important stuff and you let everything else be delegated, you end up having much, much more success in life.
That's awesome. What's the next one?
So the next one's modeling, just finding a company you want to copy after. You guys are in the process right now of syndicating and figuring that out. If I were you, I'd go find some of the biggest guys in town in your different towns. I'd ask if you could take them to lunch. I'd pick their brain, what worked, what didn't work. If you can find people doing what you're doing at a much higher level, I've already done that in Austin. So there's a guy, Shawn Dobson, with Amherst Capital. They have $5 billion in the single family home space. I met him the other day. I was really kind to him, and he was polite to me, and I sent him a copy of my book, and I'm going to follow up and try to have lunch with him. So I'm modeling where this company can go. Next one is invest in your area of competence. Make sure there's no point in trying to be an actor if you can't act. So just do what you do best. The 80-20 rule is another way of saying what I said earlier. Just prioritize, do the most important stuff first. Like when you're evicting people, you can hire a guy to do that for you. You're wasting your life. All those hours you used to do evicting people, Gino, you could just, have a cop do it for you or have an employee do it for you and take that valuable time and go look for deals. Mm-hmm. And if you just got that extra time looking at deals, you might find one that had a 20% extra profit margin in it, which then when you go to raise money, when you've sold that one, makes your story that much better, et cetera, et cetera. And instead, you're evicting a guy. Like, that's a minimum wage guy. Guido will do that, right? You can just go get a guy called Guido who's like 6'9" and have him go evict. It doesn't work for me anyway because I'm 150 and 5'9", so I couldn't evict anyone. And then lastly, invest in coaches, mentors, and masterminds. You're only as good as the people you hang out with. And I've cultivated a really good group in Austin. I'm constantly looking for people smarter and better and more capable than me. And then I'm really kind to them. I really look out for them. I'm a very, very good student and honor them and respect them. And then I learn from them. And I've got that one in private equity too, a guy that manages $2.5 billion. He's a brilliant guy. He's given me hours and hours of his time. I can't really pay him back in anything other than gratitude and success. So I'm going to be very grateful to him and honor and cherish that relationship, and then I'm going to succeed, and those two payoffs should be enough for the mentorship.
David, you've got also something really, really powerful in the book that I was wondering if you can go over briefly, those 7 habits of success, because I think anyone who has great habits, I mean, if you can form those great habits and you can stick those great habits, they lead to success. Could you just run through them real quick?
Yeah, okay, I'll just pick my favorite few. Is that all right with you?
Sure, that's great, yeah.
The number one is live life by design. The difference between winners or people winning at a massive level in life and people that are just kind of wandering along is that people that are winning economically are purposeful. They have to be massively purposeful. So live life by design means taking a look at where you are, where you want to go, thinking about it, creating that vision, writing it out, journaling it out, putting down your goals. So to me, the purposeful life is the life that ends up yielding outcome. And so live life by design is something I'm very committed to. We talked about this briefly, but sticking in an area that you can get good at. A lot of people bounce around industries. So they're a mortgage officer, then a title officer, then a realtor. That doesn't work. You got to stick with something and dig down. I mean, I'm real estate, right? So everything I do is real estate related. And you just got to get really, really, really good at what you know how to do. Earn more by learning more. I was a terrible school student, but now I learn more, I read more, I study more than almost anybody I know at my age, and it's because I'm committed to learning. I'm reading a book right now on private equity. I mean, it's just you want to be good at something. You can read books. You can find in a $25 book enough information to change your life. So just keep learning. Don't think because you're out of school, listen to this podcast, for instance. Think really, really big and then add accountability. So you should take your goals and say, let's say I want to raise $300 million for a private equity fund. Okay, let's break that down. Let's see if we can get $25 million in the first quarter, $25 million in the second quarter, et cetera. And then add accountability. So how do you add accountability? Well, you put it on the board, you bring all your team into the conversation, you assign the different amounts of money to be raised by the different people, and maybe hire a business coach, but you have extreme accountability. And then lastly is just let go of the small stuff. Most of what we worry about never comes true, 99%. So all worry does is take you off, your purpose. So stay focused on your purpose, stay focused on your outcome, prepare really well, but don't get lost. Somebody cuts you off, no big deal. Somebody rips you off and steals some money from you, no big deal. You just keep rolling. You're not going to rise in life without having a lot of little things that go wrong. You're not going to rise in life without having a lot of problems. So if people take advantage of you at times, if people are bullies or if people are just out of integrity, just understand that's just part of the deal. Prepare as much as you can, have a great team of legal representatives, be willing to walk away from small amounts of cash and not even worry about it. And it's better to be the guy that has to be stolen from than the guy that has to steal in life. So let go of the small stuff.
Yes. I read a really great quote about it. If you can't remember something 5 years from now, then it really wasn't that important. And it's just something that's a blip on the radar. So the majority of the stuff that you just mentioned, most of us 5 years from now won't even remember about it. So don't even sweat it. That's what I take from it.
Totally agree with that one. I tend to try to think of what this will look like in 1,000 years.
Oh, man. Last question before we get into the short answer. I know you talk a lot about a life audit. Can you just describe what a life audit is and how that's actually?
So you can't get ahead in life unless you know where you are, is my strong belief. So you can't, a lot of people have a delusional idea of their capabilities. So they're sort of self-delusional. And, there was this movie once where this guy slapping himself in the face as 0 defects. My viewpoint is, you need to pour cold water on yourself occasionally and say, what am I good at? What am I not good at? Okay. So I know that I am good at creating a vision and setting goals. I'm really good at it. I'm good at hiring people. I know I'm not good at grinding it away. Like if you asked me to go prospect 7 hours a day for the next 5 years, it would kill me. I can prospect 7 hours or 15 hours in one day, but I'm not a guy that's going to stick to a task that I eventually see as repetitive. Or what's another one? Yeah, I'm not. If you ask me to do the financial models on a spreadsheet for this 300 million we're going to deploy, or 150 million, whatever we end up finding, that's not my skill set. Now, I can be in a room with guys that know how to create those models and have a really good big picture of how we're going to get there, but I can't break that down to a level that a quant or a sophisticated financial analyst would understand. So know what you're good at, know what you're not good at, and don't try to do what you're not good at. That's the bottom line. And that's the life audit, is a way of looking at your whole life right now. And we have something called the Life Happiness Index in the appendix of the book, and we have tools like your net worth statement, and you just write down all the things that resonate with you. And if you give yourself a 1 on prospecting, like you hate it, on a 1 to 10, then don't go prospecting. Hire it. You can hire everything in life. That's the beautiful thing about life. And if you put down for your health, you're a 10 out of 10, but you weigh 350 pounds and you eat at McDonald's every day, you're like, you want to go to the mirror and slap yourself in the face a few times and come back, because it's all about being transparent and really, really honest with where you are in life, because that's the only way you can make a difference. And it's especially true, like for me with my wife, like that's like, am I being a great husband? Because every skill I develop at business doesn't work in relationship. So am I spending time with my kids, or am I just fooling myself that I'm spending time with kids? Because I can get really into work, like everybody probably listening to your podcast, and I got to make sure that I go down, and when I'm with my kid, I turn that off and I just drop right into whatever they want to do. And sometimes I do, and sometimes I'm pretending to play with them and I'm still thinking about the deal I was working on upstairs. But at least being aware of that creates the opportunity to transform it. And some guys, I think, just go through the motions, and that's not what it's all about.
I agree.
It's hard to be present all the time, isn't it?
Oh my gosh, is it? Yes, especially when things are really, really exciting. But you've got a lot of really good deals cooking or something like that. But the skill is to just drop in and ask questions. So I'll ask questions to my wife, and she's getting really good at asking questions. And we both discussed that, like, how do we really tune into each other? And we both come to the conclusion it's asking questions. So that's what we do. We ask questions, then actually listen to the answers. Like when I go to dinner with my wife, I leave my phone in the car. I don't take it in with me. So little techniques and tools and tricks. Yeah.
That's Tony Robbins right there. The quality of your life is basically in a direct proportion to the quality of the questions. The better the question you can ask, the better the quality of your life you're going to have. And those questions can be hard. So that's why. Suck it up, right, Jake?
Yeah. So one thing that keeps coming up, you're discussing hiring, and when I'm hiring somebody, there's certain things that I'm looking for. You know, can I check that box? 'Cause I think they'll be competent, right? But what I've realized over time is it's kind of coming down to a gut check, and a lot of times it's the proof is in the pudding. They'll get out there and they'll either do it or they won't. What do you what do you do when you're hiring? What special things do you do? You know, because you said you're talented at it. What things are you looking for? Because that's sort of what it's come down to me. I'm going through, can they be competent in these areas, and then what's my gut telling me on this person? What's your advice for hiring?
So we use an outsourced reference checker who's very, very good. We give them a personality assessment. We take them through 3 interviews. So, I mean, the first interview is just a cursory interview to get to know them, to see if they even make it to the next step. The behavioral assessment tells you what their strengths and weaknesses are. And then the second step is to get references checked through this professional checker, and also meet with them for a deeper interview where you try to get their life story. And what you're looking for is patterns of success. Successful people leave a pattern. And if they hated their previous job and hated the job before that and hated the job before that, guess what? In a year, they're going to hate working for you too. So you want to try it. You're almost like a therapist. You put on your therapist hat and just ask questions, just like we discussed. Try to not put words in their mouth, because a lot of us over A-types tend to go, oh, yeah, so what you mean is this, 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 and this. And if they just sit there nodding, you're going to think, oh, this is a great hire, because they just nodded to everything you said. So you got to really listen and put your listening hat on. Check the references. And then the other thing I'm a big believer in is, 2 things. One is it's only a 6-month risk. So I hire people, I observe them for 6 months. And if they're not doing what I thought they would do, or 90 days, then we just move on and say, hey, this didn't work out. And every time you have to let someone go, you failed, not them. So you have to be super apologetic. I'm really careful with people on the way out. I'm like, hey, I just don't think we're a match. And, there's probably some place where you can really shine in life, but it's probably not here because this isn't working that good. Yes, I use my gut, but then the next thing is you've got to know when you're hiring people that they have to do it their way. So a lot of us hire somebody and they're not doing it the way we want them to do, and we're like, oh, you just obviously aren't that talented. But some people will find a better way to do it than you would have done it. So you've got to let them, great talent will find a way, and it's not necessarily your way. And I think A-types have a real problem with that too, because they're like, no, there's only one way to do this. Well, no, that's not true. There's a lot of ways to do it. And if you let people emerge into the space, they will do a good job. Now, that doesn't mean you can have no parameters and no framework for them. But the error I see with a lot of A types is like, oh, she did it the wrong way. She did it this way, and it took an extra hour. And yeah, but maybe she was more thorough, or maybe he was more thorough. So you got to accept about 80% of your input and let them have that 20% to do. And as they get better and better, they'll probably take more and more away from you.
We were talking about habits a minute ago. What is a habit that you do on a daily or weekly basis that's led to your success?
So I love to get up early, and I love to have my quiet time. And when I got that quiet time, I journal, and I also review my goals. I'd say reviewing my goals is number one. I take them with me everywhere I go. I'll show them to you right now for those viewing it in line. But anyway, I got my goals right here.
For the YouTubers.
And there.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, right there. And it's got categorized. I've got it categorized in a bunch of different sessions. You can actually get it off my website at davidosborn.com. I'll send you a copy of it. But yeah, it's where I look at everything I'm doing. I got my relationship, family goals right at the top. Then I got my spiritual, my physical, my intellectual, my lifestyle adventure. And then on my right side, I got all my businesses. So every business, the goal. And what I found is if you just write down a few key big things that have to occur in your business, and you keep looking at that, paying attention to that, and pushing your business towards that outcome, you get incredible results. It doesn't have to be 1,000 little things. It just can be a few. I try to keep it to 3 to 5 goals for each business.
Excellent, excellent. What about a book to recommend to the listeners? Maybe something that you read in the beginning of your career that you're like, no, that's the book everyone's got to read, or something you read recently that you want to recommend?
I love As a Man Thinketh. As a Man Thinketh is an incredible book, in my opinion. It's very old, written in the 1800s, but it talks all about what I call reworking your pipes. Everything that occurs to you, you got to constantly rework how you think about it. And if you think about things the correct way, you'll get positive outcome. And if you think about things the wrong way, with blame, victimhood, defeatist perspective, then you won't get a good outcome. And that sounds simple, right? It's like, oh, don't be a victim, but it's really not. You'll find the words slipping into you, like, oh, there are no good deals out there, or it's really hard to find money right now, and all of that programming becomes your reality. Or that guy's such a jerk. I wish they weren't such a jerk, when they might be quite talented. So you got to relook at that. Are they a jerk, or are they just aggressive and you're misinterpreting that as a jerk, So a lot of things, fall that way, and it's important not to get caught into dysfunctional thinking. And I think most people get caught in dysfunctional thinking, and you can just hear for it. I mean, all of us do, but you can hear it. You can hear people be like, oh, it's so hard. This is so difficult. And you're like, I don't even know what to say to you right now. But if they read that book and they learned how to pay attention to their thoughts and realize that your mind is like a garden, and you weed out the limiting thoughts and keep nurturing the strong thoughts, that makes a huge difference in life. So I love that book, and it's very easy to read.
Excellent. Gino, you read that one?
I didn't, but I learned something in life
coaching.
I
got one on you, man.
in life coaching, what I learned was, what people say is about them, what you hear is about you. So it's really about how you interpret it, how you internalize it. The cards you're dealt with is exactly what David's talking about. And that's what most of us always overreact. And like someone says, hey, how you doing? I like, what's up with the shirt? And you might be saying, hey, what's wrong with my shirt? And if you're a confident person and you're in a positive frame of mind, you're going to say, yeah, I like my shirt. But if you're down in the dumps, you're like, what's this guy criticizing my shirt for? So that book is something that I've got to I got to get that on the docket, Jake.
I got that one a few years ago. It was a Jeffrey Gitomer recommendation.
Oh.
So what project are you excited about right now, David?
Well, and by the way, just on the last thought, gratitude is such a powerful force. So just try to walk around with gratitude in your head every day. And there is such misfortune out there, and so many people are really not lucky. Like 3 billion of the world worry every day just about eating and drinking. So I find gratitude is like a magic pill that eliminates all self-pity. Mm-hmm. And that's just being grateful for your life, your kids, your health. I mean, health is the crown the well man wears that only the sick man sees. You feel great right now and you're feeling good, so you don't even think about it. You take it for granted. Then all of a sudden you got a problem. Like a very dear friend of mine got diagnosed with cancer, and for 9 months has been fighting cancer. I mean, like, talk about a game changer. So gratitude is a pill that just kind of dissolves a lot of that negativity if you'll allow it to grow in your brain and in your being. So the next question you asked was a deal. Well, I'm very excited about this private equity play, but again, it could fall flat on its face. I try to be very practical and realistic about things, and if we can raise the capital, we'll be able to deploy the capital, and it could be a pretty good opportunity. But at the same time, it could fall flat on its face. But I would say that's what I'm most excited about right now.
Well, good luck with that. And where can people get the book, and how can people get a hold of you, et cetera?
So the book's everywhere right now. It's in Barnes & Noble. It's at the airports. You can order it on Amazon. If you do order it on Amazon, please give me good 5-star review, and we're trying to fight some trolls, but we got mostly
Come on, trolls, get out of the way,
4.7.
trolls.
Yeah, it's amazing how people can say, like, I read your book and I loved it, it changed my life, and another guy would be like, I read your book, it's the worst thing I've ever read. You're like, really? Like, I mean, that worst, that's pretty strong.
I know it.
It's probably some guy that I pissed off sometime. But anyway, so, and then, reach me at davidosborn.com, www.davidosborn.com, OSBORN. My only wish for everybody out there is that all their dreams come true. What I love about real estate, I think financial freedom is really the birthright of anybody that chooses it in the United States of America. We're so lucky we live in this country, and I think real estate is the best industry to get financial freedom. And the thing that I love is bumping into guys like you. You know, Jake, you walked out of the restaurant business. You were in it. You were working 25 hours a day, and now you're financially free and you're excited about living in Florida and living your life, and you're still working really, really hard, but you're actually getting somewhere instead of just spinning your wheels. And I think every American has that possibility if they choose it. And that's what's great about real estate, and that's what's great about a podcast like Wheelbarrow Profits. You guys are making a difference and helping people achieve their dreams.
You got a pizza guy and a drug rep here. He was doing the pizza, and I was doing corporate sales, selling vaccines and pharmaceuticals. So it's how it goes.
Yeah. I know pharmaceutical guys too. They're making a ton of money, but they're trapped because they're kind of trapped.
Oh man, every year was a different layoff, and they'd set you. They say, all right, go home on this day, sit by the phone, and you'll get a call. You may have a job, you may not. 8 times I went through that. So
that's and you change your quota, right? So you're making great money, then they change your quota, and like it's just real estate is so much better, and it's so much easier. I mean, everybody should get into real estate,
David, it's one other thing. People can go on the Jake and Gino site. I wrote a book review, so if you're on the fence about what you think about the book, if you're not going to pull the trigger, go on jakeandgino.com. There's a book review that I wrote, and I think that'll change your idea about it. I mean, like I said, I love the book. That's why I contacted him right after, and soon after that, I got even more into it. I met a couple of guys in his community, so I can vouch for the book. I think the book has been great. Jake, any takeoffs? I mean, there's so many things other than the book that I would have loved to hit, like the vertical income, horizontal income, all that stuff. But Jake, you have any parting final thoughts?
No, it's just we've done enough of these things, and you speak to enough guys, and you can tell when someone's really been through it and experienced it. Because we've been through it, right? The growth of a business and getting out there and doing it. So I just think your story's great, and wish you continued success.
Thanks, Jake. Thanks, Gino. I appreciate you guys. Love being on your show.
Guys, thanks. Have a great day. All right.
See you guys.
Bye, guys.